Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And my card and video for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, which I'm a teeny bit late, which extra sucks because I'm the host this week, but life. Anyway, I will have a link to the challenge in my blog post, which is linked directly below the video. So you guys can check it out and play along. It's just for fun. And I love it. I love thinking in terms of different color combos that I wouldn't normally use. I do get asked that a lot about how do you come up with like card ideas, etc., etc. And it always depends. But when it comes specifically to like color, if the color combo is already done, because it's a color challenge or there's some other color combo I'm following, whatever. But if the colors are already done, then I find it a lot easier to be like, this would look nice with this. This would look nice with this. And then I just kind of pull it together around that, if that makes sense. So anywho, I pulled out this kind of oldie but goodie set. This is the Hibiscus Blooms set from Simon Says Stamp. This was released a couple years ago, something. I know I've used it in a previous video. And I've had it sitting in my like to use again pile because large florals, hello. So pulled it out. I used my OLO markers again. For those that might not have seen them, I did a live video here on my YouTube channel the other day, just filling out my hex chart with the OLO markers. I've done, as of doing this voiceover, like this intro, I've done a video, a card making video coloring with them. And then this is officially my second time coloring with them. So far, so good. And again, if you've got Copic markers, do you need them? No. I am someone who likes having options and trying out new things, and they have intrigued me. So that's what I'm doing. So I used that. I used a couple of the new Simon yellow colors as well, which I also have used. I think I used the yellows in a previous video. I can't keep track, you guys. I post a lot. But did a little bit of ink blending, a bit of splatter, added some shimmer. You guys know. So keep watching and I'll show you guys how I made this card. So step number 1 in making this card was to stamp the large image. There's actually multiple images in this set. There's this big large bloom, which of course is what I went with. But there's like individual flowers and leaves and whatnot too. There's options. But I took the large bloom and then these two little hummingbirds, and they're so cute. So I'm going to stamp those onto Simon Says Stamp's smooth white 120 pound cardstock using Simon's Intense Black ink. It's a alcohol marker friendly ink. Using my MISTI for this so that I can get everything stamped. Technically, I think it's stamped fine just the first time, but it's also just habit. Just stamp everything twice. I don't know. So I inked it up, stamped it again, making sure I got just all the detail. And then in editing, I've sped this up. I do not color this quickly at all. This actually didn't take that long for me to color. But yeah, I've super sped this up. I'm not really sharing anything groundbreaking here. I just started with the petals. And in my head, I was thinking, one, because I'm going with the Color Throwdown Challenge, which was like yellow, peach, and green. So I was like, well, hibiscus, that's perfect for this because I can make like peachy yellow hibiscus blooms. Because, yeah, hibiscus come in like every single color. Side note, I love hibiscus. I don't live anywhere remotely near where these can be grown. But I will say, surprisingly enough, for someone with basically a black thumb, that was the first houseplant I ever had many, many years ago was a hibiscus plant. And I got that thing like almost 8 feet tall and it was blooming. And I don't know what happened to it. That was previous life. Anyway, I need to get one again because they're just beautiful. Anywho, I have the little marker caps on screen. It looks weird how I'm coloring with them because I am coloring with them weird. These are just the half markers. I haven't connected them. I talked about this in the live stream. I still haven't made up my mind. Who knows when. I'll probably be forced, eventually to connect. I just don't like the idea of having like different shades on one marker. That really bothers me. Maybe when I get more comfortable and really knowing the color numbers and what's what, that I'll connect them and be fine with it, but it legit bugs me. So I'm using them like this. They're my little stublets, I'm calling them. And so far so good. I do think like longer coloring sessions than this. This took me about, I don't really time myself, but I think a little over 20 minutes, something like that. You know, when you're doing a lot of coloring, detail images, takes a long time, etc. I might really regret keeping my markers like this because it'll just start causing like hand cramps, but so far so good. Anyway, I did the blooms as you saw with like kind of peachy orange colors and yellow, you know, just giving them that look. And then the greenery threw me off a bit. That is one thing with the OLO markers that I didn't even notice at first, but when I was pulling colors to color this, I was like, where are all the greens? I have been hearing through the rumor mill, more colors are coming out in April. I am hoping for more greens because I do think that is one area that they need to fill out more. But to make that work for me, I use the 2 shades as I showed here, and then I'm just going to glaze over this with a yellow green, just like so. I could have grabbed some of my Copics. You know, I was kind of determined to make it work with just these. I generally kind of keep to the same brand when I'm doing things like coloring, etc., just to make it work. Even though I've got all the things, I can mix and match. There's no rules against it. Who knows? Eventually, I'll probably just kind of mix and match. That is kind of the whole point. I know. Anyway. I glazed over them though, and it gave the greens a much more, you know, kind of yellow green vibrant look, which I was quite happy with. And then I added a little more detail to the stamens because they were just kind of bugging me. And then the hummingbirds I kept pretty simple. Just again to go along with the color throwdown challenge. But then as I was coloring them, I was like, oh, I need to pull these out and like use them again, like use the set again and again and again because it's beautiful. But I was like, ooh, these hummingbirds would look really pretty in like purples and aqua colors. Hummingbirds, they're beautiful. I love them. Anyway, I finished all my coloring and then I'm going to use the coordinating wafer dies to cut these out. So I'm going to tape the dies into place with just little bits of washi tape. That just helps prevent the dies from shifting when I run this through my die cut machine, because there is literally nothing worse than spending all the time coloring an image and then you go and die cut it and the die moves and like cuts a chunk of the image off. Been there, done that. So I just tape those into place and then die cut the images. And then I decided to keep everything else in a sense simple. I'm going to do a lot of steps, but like before I even started this card, I was thinking like all the other products I could use. I was thinking of background stamps and stencils and embossing folders and all the things, you know? And I was like, no, how about just a simple ink blended background? You know, because this whole focus of the card is these florals anyway. So that's what I did. I trimmed down a piece of the same smooth white cardstock to 4 inches by 5 1/4, just slightly smaller than an A2 card front. And I blended onto it 2 of the new yellow shades, like I mentioned in the intro. So the first one was the lighter shade, which is Butter. Fabulous. Just chef's kiss fabulous. And then I used Zest, which was the medium shade of the trio. And I just used my blending brush and kind of blended it off, blended it out to white, you know, added that medium shade, and then decided to use that medium shade. And I just smushed it onto my work surface here. I moved everything else out of the way. Because this is usually why, and I do bring in my splat box a little later, but otherwise it just gets everywhere. But I smushed the ink pad onto my work surface and then just took this little paintbrush with a tiny bit of water, swirled it in there, and then splattered that all over that little background, and it just gives it that little extra bit of, you know, texture and whatnot. So I set that aside, and then I took just a scrap of white cardstock and I stamped the happy birthday sentiment from the set onto that scrap with the same intense black ink, and then off camera I die cut it with the coordinating wafer die. And then while I had my MISTI out, my stamps and everything had been cleaned off, and I'm going to line up that large floral again onto what will be the inside of my card. So got that lined up, kind of hung it off the edges a little bit, and then I'm stamping that in the lighter shade of ink, so the butter ink. So ink that up, stamp that onto the inside of the card, and then took that out of there, and then I used the little companion kind of sentiment for the happy birthday sentiment from that same stamp set, and then lined that up and stamped that with the intense black ink. So this is going to finish off the inside of my card. and then baker's twine, of course, because that's again, I'm back on the, you know, the baker's twine kick. I've mentioned this in recent videos, and if you've been watching my recent videos, when have I not used baker's twine in all my recent videos? It's just a phase, you know? So I wrapped this around the card front, and this is one of those days where it was not working for me. He was just struggling. It just didn't want to work. You know, everything was just doing its thing, and I ended up getting it like tied in a knot, and I was just like, I just went with it. I was like, you know what, whatever. So was able to make it work. It just was being ornery. It happens. So finally got it the way I wanted it to be, and then trimmed off the excess of the tails once I was finally happy with how the little bow looked. And then to adhere these hibiscus florals, I am going to use Simon's Big Momma foam tape. So it'll give it a little bit of lift, you know, without a whole lot of bulk. So snipped up a bunch of pieces of that, stuck it on the back of this, and then I'm going to kind of wiggle this into place right, because I wanted that bow to be kind of peeking out right in that opening under the big floral there. So once I got that into place, I did the same thing with the little hummingbird die cuts. I'm going to adhere those into place as well. And just kind of wasn't even thinking, because I was planning on adding shimmer to all of this, but I was just, you know, I was in my let's adhere everything phase. So I adhered it first, then I added shimmer. Normally I would add shimmer and then I'd adhere things. It's just easier. But pop my little hummingbirds into place with the Big Momma foam tape. And then I'm going to use my Nouveau Aqua Shimmer pen. And it looks like nothing on camera, always. The glitter is amazing. I love it. I love my Aqua Shimmer pens. Favorite. Absolute favorite. So I will show, of course, at the end with my flashlight so you guys can see the shimmer. So I painted this all over the blooms. And then, of course, I did the hummingbirds as well, because I was like, of course, they'll be glittery too. So I just tilt it in the light. That's why I'm holding it up, because you can see it when the light hits it, especially when you're applying it, because it applies it, you can see the liquid, and then that all dries, and then all you're left with is shimmer. So I just filled in all of the petals and then the little hummingbirds with this, and that's why I said it would have just been easier to do this before adhering, you know, the hummingbirds and stuff, but it still wasn't difficult to just kind of paint around them. So added all the shimmery bits and then added more splatter. Because, you know, that's just what we do here. So I'm using the Picket Fence Studios liquid white snowflake paper splatter watercolor. Say that 3 times fast. I've shown this in many videos. This gives a very similar look to my Ranger Perfect Pearl powder that I mix with water that I've shown in a million videos. Same sort of idea. So I just shook it up, stuck a bit on my work surface. This time put my background into my splat box, and then I used my little fan brush and just splattered the dickens out of this card. Because this too, that splatter is it's shimmery, but it's not super obvious. Like, again, it depends on when you tilt it in the light, which I'll show at the end. So I let that dry and then pop the card front onto the card base with that same Big Momma foam tape. And then just used a couple pieces of foam squares to adhere that sentiment into place on top of like all the dimension between the baker's twine and then the images all popped up. So I got that popped into place. And then as my final little embellishment, the container shakes. It's just fun. These are the Sunbeam Pawsitively Dazzling Gems. I used these in a recent video as well. So I added a few of those to the background, and then once I was happy with the placement of them, I'm just going to pick them up with my little embellishment wand and glue them into place with some craft tacky glue. And once the glue dries, this card will be complete. So I'm going to turn the flashlight on my phone so you guys can see the shimmer and the glitter, because it's amazing. Because yeah, especially that Nouveau Aqua Shimmer, you don't really see it. Even when you tilt it in the light, like my filming lights, in real life, when it hits the light, you can see it. But this is one of the few things I can manage to show on camera, and sparkle is amazing. I love it. So that is my card. Like I said in the intro, I will have a link to my blog post in the description box below the video. You just expand that, hop on over to there. I'll have a link to the color throwdown challenge. I'd love to have you play along. And then as always, of course, I will have a supply list, a link list and link all the supplies that I've used. That will also be in the description box below the video, and then it'll be picture links over on my blog. So any of you who are interested can just check that out below. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!